Here we are, Thanksgiving weekend. Last week we read we studied verses 9 and 10 of Ephesians 5. So we're just gonna start off by reading verses 11 through 15, which is the plan for today. We may not get through all that. I think we will, but we're at least going to get through a few of the verses. But starting in verse 11, it says, "And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them. For it is a shame even to speak of those things which were done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light, for whatsoever doeth make manifest is light. Wherefore he saith, Awake that thou sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give you light. See then that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise." Okay, so we're going to start off with verse 11, and just to reread for emphasis, it says, "And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather reprove them." Okay, so what is this darkness that Paul is referring to?
I mean, he says unfruitful works of darkness, so I'd say mostly sin, but then, also, might not all be active sin, but not following God, not surrounding yourself with good people, not putting God first in your life.
I'd say that's a good answer. Yeah, it's basically living a life for sin, living a life for the world, and there is a big compass, like you said. It could be so minor that it's just simply people that have values that are contrary to God, but it could be on the other side of the pendulum where it's obvious darkness, where people doing drugs or gangs or violence of some sort, and so basically anything that is of the world is darkness. So what types of darkness has become normalized in recent times?
All of them?
Well, not all of them.
them. I mean, coldness is a big one. People don't care about each other anymore, but there's a lot of vanity and selfishness, and people just focusing on themselves and how they look.
Yes, okay, another good answer, Ben. I think that you're addressing the actual, what I said in the question, really recent times, right? Like if you go back, 30 years ago, or even 40 years ago, alcohol consumption became, normalized, fornication became normalized, and immodest clothing became normalized. And I think, like, there used to be this term of endearment, if you will, for people in the South. They say Southern hospitality, like being inhospitable. In Ben's era here, has become normalized. Like, I don't think that was, even though people weren't as hospitable as they used to be, I think you could say that's been, like, in the last 20 years become
normal.
Right now, I think it's actually, you'd almost feel like a freak to be hospitable. Like I said, I don't know any of my neighbors, and I live on the type of street where you should, right? Because the street's only a tenth of a mile, and there's 8 houses, and none of us ever go to each other's houses. And but then if you it would almost be funny if someone did a comedic skit, like someone came from a time machine, like
you go welcome wagon.
You'd go knock on the door, say, "Hi, I'm your neighbor."
Yeah.
You'd feel like a freak.
Well, it's funny. We lived here so long that when we first lived here, it was normal when people moved here to welcome to the neighborhood, and now it isn't.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. Well,
20
that's 20,
23 years.
right. Like I said, around 20 years ago,
Yeah.
it wasn't the same,
Right.
but it was still like now. Now I think the opposite's true. I think being hospitable would be looked down upon,
Yeah.
and then other things that I think are normalized that's darkness is just the idea of insulting people all the time.
Oh yeah.
Like like I remember when I was a kid in business, there was this guy that mentored me briefly, right? And he said, "Why is McDonald's more successful than Burger King?" Right? I don't know if he's right or not, but his opinion depicts a shift in the culture. Okay. And I said to him, I said, "I have no idea." And he said, "Remember the ad, Whopper beat the Big Mac?" He says, "People don't like you saying that you're better, you know."
Right.
Now, that whole idea, that whole concept is gone. You
Right.
know, now it's like like we have in the political realm, everybody's like talking about everybody like they're bad. Like you can become president of the United States by
Insulting.
insulting
side.
people that are different.
Yeah, when I was a kid, that would get you kicked right out of the race.
Yes, and it would get you. It was socially unacceptable. Like you wouldn't have friends if you were insulting.
Yeah, he just badmouths everybody.
Right. And then, well, actually, let's just use a political example. I wish I could remember the word, but I didn't think of this on my notes, right? But there was, oh no, it wasn't Ronald Reagan. It was, it was a TV show. But anyhow, there was a famous actor that someone insulted him,
Yeah.
and he was supposed to insult them back,
Yeah.
and he says, "I will not dignify that question with a response."
Yeah. Yeah, they used to say that a lot.
Yes, okay.
Yeah.
So then that means I'm not going to get down
I'm not getting in this, yeah,
to that.
badgering more, yeah.
Right. So I think this constant insults of people is darkness that has become normalized. Victim blaming, which is on the left, right?
Mm-hmm.
This whole idea that like everybody is oppressing everybody else
Right.
is actually evil, and it's so normal that people don't realize it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're actually putting people in categories and discriminating against them,
Yeah.
and that's become, it's almost like not normal to not do that,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think sadly, and myself and my family had parts of this, is I think gambling has become normalized in the very recent past, like in the last 3-5 years,
Mm-hmm.
since DraftKings became normal. I don't know if this is true or not, but they say boys that are Ben's age to say Beth's age or whatever. Okay, actually, because if people watch the video, okay, young men between the age of like 20 and 35 or 38. I don't know if this statistic is true, so forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think they said 88% of them do sports betting
Yeah.
or video games.
Yeah.
Oh, it's video games, but I think it's a similar statistic on sports betting.
Mm-hmm.
And being disrespectful to elders has become normalized, and, which in the past you couldn't do that.
Right. Yeah.
Can anybody else think of something that is darkness that has become normalized?
To racism.
That was, unfortunately, I wouldn't call that recent, but recent past.
Never mind.
Well, I'd go in a more broader sense, just fear.
Well, we had racism throughout the history, and it's been normal, and now we have a different.
Because it has been normal.
What's that?
Yeah, it's been normal for a long time.
I mean, like since the beginning of history, it's been normal, right? But it keeps changing. So now you could say age discrimination is a form of racism. Like I would say that's a socially acceptable form of racism.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not actually a race.
Mm-hmm. It's a form of prejudice.
We have a lot of, we do have, okay, I wouldn't necessarily call it racism, but we have a lot of prejudices that have become normalized in the last 10 or 15 years that are similar. I think the one that's the most destructive is age discrimination in a social setting. Well,
Right.
what's interesting is you get two different age discriminations in our society.
Right.
Socially, if you're over the age of 35, you are a second class citizen in the social setting. In the business setting, if you are younger than age 35, you are a second class citizen in the business world. So it's kind of it's kind of interesting. We're discriminating against, but I do think people over 60, there's still age discrimination that makes this more complicated. But in the social world, people don't want to be close to somebody that's more than 5 years older than them, and then people take every human foible and attribute it to age.
Mm-hmm.
So they say, "Oh, your back hurts. That's because you're getting older. Oh, you forgot something. That's because you're getting older. Oh, you don't remember your keys. That's because you." So then we're taking every single human frailty, attributing it to age. So then, if somebody reaches a certain age, they've got all these bad things about them.
Mm-hmm.
But then also, people are discriminating against people that have different political opinions.
Yeah.
And then of course Trump's make that really challenging because it's hard not, like in the past it mostly would be ridiculous to discriminate. This is your politics, this is mine.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're actually causing people literally to die. So that makes it a little different.
Yeah.
But regardless of which, you have this political discrimination and people calling each other names. I saw protests in Concord where I can't remember exactly what they were protesting, abortion or something like that. And then there'd be another guy with a sign that has expletives on the sign condemning the protesters.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think that was something anybody would have done even 10 years ago.
No. No.
So I think the swearing has become
Yes.
normalized in the last 5 or 10 years.
Absolutely.
I've even seen people that are classy people that would never swear
Mm-hmm.
that go on swearing rants.
Yeah.
Low class communication, and then
Yeah.
the one that Ben mentioned, the immodesty,
Mm-hmm.
because of social media. It's funny. I never thought that I would get sick of seeing bikini photos as a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like everybody that loses weight, if it's a girl, they're going to have 20 bikini photos, right?
Yeah.
People go on vacation, we're going to see 100 photos of their vacation. If they get a new car, they like people are taking all of their experiences and kind of bragging about it on social media, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook. And I think in the past, you'd be more subtle about such things.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I lost weight, I'd be proud. I'd say people in this room, but I'm not necessarily gonna take my shirt off and post it online
Right.
or have a billboard that says, "Look at me! I lost 20 pounds, and this is how good I look because I lost the weight."
Right.
Like that was definitely not something that was socially acceptable.
Right.
And I think it's not maybe the worst darkness in the world, but if you take the immodesty of tattoos, the immodesty of showing skin, and not only has it become socially acceptable, but I also think we're getting a backwards value where you're considered. We now have like double layers of discrimination. So like, if you aren't going to show off your body, you're just old. You're this other bad group that we can discriminate against. If you're young, you get a tattoo and show your pecs or show your abs.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's interesting with the immodesty. We're also I wouldn't call it racism, but I would say there is more discrimination in society today than there was when racism was rampant in the 40s.
Mm-hmm.
and I think people don't even realize that even when rampant racism was occur, these people still had families. People weren't as isolated as they are. But that was bad. Don't get me wrong. But I think you have say 30 things that are 60% as bad as like the one thing that you had
Yeah.
in the 40s. So when you put all 30 things together,
The effect can be
the
collectively worse.
it's worse on an emotional level because it makes people insecure. You know, whereas before you had one unjust thing in culture, that group got together
Yeah.
and there was people that did not discriminate that supported them,
Right.
so people weren't as insecure even when you had this flagrantly ridiculously bad
Yeah.
racism. Now you have discrimination that not every group does collectively, but it's so strong that it's creating a fractured, isolated society where people don't feel comfortable communicating with each other in a meaningful way. Okay. Is drug use darkness?
Yeah. Go
Yeah.
ahead. Good. I would say it's it's destroying people's lives. People that had productive function in society are reduced to nothing from addictions.
Yeah, the body is the temple and everything is connected. Like drug use, some people might just be hurting themselves and not hurting others, and that's not as bad as say a drug dealer. But anything that's impure is bad. You're hindering your ability to have for the people that love you. You're hindering your ability to be an example to others. You're hindering your own life. You're hindering your own accomplishments. It's not good to lead a self-destructive life physically. Now, can political activism be darkness?
Yeah, I would say in two forms. Like in the lesser form, just simply viewing, political outcomes to be the answer to your life, negates your relationship with God. But then in the more severe form, when you think every political difference is war, and you hate everybody that's got a different opinion than you, then this is really dark.
Yes. Yeah, ditto. Yeah, but yeah, it's well. Number one is that not all the values are correct,
Mm-hmm.
and it causes you to justify people's sins. Like I was talking to a relative a couple of days ago, and I was explaining how, like Trump would like rip off all of his vendors.
Mm-hmm.
So this might not be the best person to be in charge of, and then every industry. And then he was saying that's how business goes.
Remind me not to work for your relative. That's how my business associates go.
It's not on mine.
If I have somebody like that, we stop working for them.
But people, like if people get caught up into a certain. But my point of this is, if you get caught up into a certain political persuasion,
Mm-hmm.
then you lose your values
Yeah.
to support it.
Yeah, you can start justifying what they do wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I do think you see this on the extremes on the left. It just so happens that now the right is in an era of darkness, so the left looks better.
Yeah.
But if you just blindly take in all of that stuff, like remember the left did, create this progressivism where they make everyone a victim and everyone being discriminated against, which makes everyone bad. They're the ones that started cancel culture. They're the ones that did the Black Lives Matter. They're the ones that said, defund the police,
Right.
which implies everyone's policeman is bad. Everyone's discriminating against. Every time black don't get a job, that means that someone hated them and was racist causing it.
Right.
And then on the right, I mean, so now you got things on the right that are worse than this,
Yeah.
right? You have randomly blowing up boats, setting people off into concentration camps, kicking people out for a crime they might have committed 55 years ago. That was,
to starving children in
yeah, burning up food instead of giving it to people to eat, cutting people off their health care benefits. So basically both sides of the political activism thing is actually, it is darkness.
Yeah.
Because the reason it's darkness is that you can't get love from this.
Yeah.
You can't get redemption from this. You can't learn to love people by constantly looking at people as the answer to every problem
Right.
in the world.
Right.
That we all need to become united and come together. So if you try to get your identity through politics, then you're gonna end up hating people, you're gonna end up isolating people, you're going to discriminate against people, and this doesn't end well. This ends in war. This doesn't end that you just get to control everybody through your politics. This ends with the two extremes bombing each other.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
Is hateful speech darkness?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's give a hypothetical example. Let's say you just went and stole from the lady across the street.
Okay.
And then I sit here on camera and I announce what you did wrong and I start attacking your character for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you did do that sin.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm right, is my speech still darkness?
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not really helping anybody that watches it. It's not really helping me. You know, if you're actually trying to help the situation, then you convince the person what they stole is wrong and try to get them to give it back in private.
Yeah, well, okay, let's say you stole $50, right?
Okay.
The Christian response is for me to personally condemn you stealing it,
Right.
go over while you see it, give them $50
Of yours.
of my money.
Okay, yeah, that would be unbelievable.
Okay, and then encourage you to repent
Yeah.
with a positive take that you will,
Yes.
and try to figure out why you stole and see if there's anything I could do to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe you needed food.
Right. The hateful speech does not actually
Help anybody.
create a transformed soul, contrary to popular belief.
Really?
So even if the hateful speech is correct, which most of the time it isn't,
Right.
then I think if I was really bad on the hateful speech, I actually think my sin could be worse than yours.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if I was just sitting there on a high horse condemning,
Yeah.
and I think that's darkness,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's become normalized,
Yeah.
and I think it's become idolized,
Yeah.
especially in the political world.
Yeah.
I think people, and to a degree in social media as well, I think what gets clicks, what gets people watching, and what captures people's interest is hateful speech. And I think the better job you do at articulating your hate, the more popular you are. Whereas if you went back, even in the 70s, hateful speech shunned you from society.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and so it's definitely been normalized. It's not good, and I think that it's actually worse than the people that it's directed against. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's wrong, and well, let's just say, let's just use me as an example. We used an example last time, right? So we're friends, right? So let's say I'm insensitive, or I do, you know, like if you're around someone long enough, they make mistakes.
Right.
Would it be beneficial to condemn every single mistake and show hatred for it?
No, I mean, there's nothing in the Bible that endorses that. Like, if somebody does offend you, you forgive them.
I think insecurity caused this.
Yeah.
Because I remember, like, say you made a mistake or I make a mistake. Let's say I don't know, I can't think of a good mistake off the top of my head, but let's say I take you to a restaurant that you don't like, or I made a mistake with my business, right? You should be able to comfortably say, you know what, I don't think that's a good idea,
Right.
and I think that's a mistake. I think you should have done blank.
Yeah.
Well, when the insecurity and the fear culture said that you're insulting me,
Mhm.
how can you judge me? You make mistakes too, right?
Yeah.
So then I think that's gotten to the point where, because it started off, we weren't comfortable to address things,
Yeah.
and then now the fear has gotten so bad, because if you actually can talk to someone openly and you can actually talk about mistakes, then you have like this liberty of communication.
Right.
Whereas then, because you can't, people become insecure because they can't learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
And then now, I'm not saying this is all of the problem,
Right.
but I think that the mindset that you can't address mistakes led to a fear and identity crisis
Mhm.
that caused people to condemn other people's mistakes with hateful speech.
Yeah.
Whereas I think that's an irony of it.
Yeah, and another part of the irony too is you might not always understand everything. Like what I'm perceiving as a mistake in you, might not have been. Like if I just start openly condemning you, take like your $50 example. Maybe the lady across the street owed me $50 and told me it's on the kitchen table. I can come pick it up whenever I want.
This is true, right?
Yeah.
And
might not be
this
what you
is
think.
why the Bible teaches discernment, right?
Right.
And there's a verse in the Bible that validates that. Can anyone? I should have you answer the question. Can anyone think of the verse? Think in the plant world. The plant world that's bigger than people.
Oh. No. Oh, good tree doesn't bring forth evil fruit.
Right. So if I see him stealing $50, I know that he didn't steal it, right?
Yeah.
Because he's a good tree. We've been ignoring discernment, right, which is a separate issue, right? But in the past, you would kind of like look at someone's character. Like if I heard that that Lily went and blew up 10 cows and went and starved babies, I would know that that's not true. Now then, if somebody said it that I know is an honest person, then I would have to say, okay, I'm going to have to see this one to believe it.
Well, and then this is why the Bible teaches you go to the person, just you and them, and ask them about it, in case it's all just a misunderstanding.
Right. So what we used to do is we would judge people based on their actions, whereas now we judge them based on how they validate our insecurities.
Right.
So we say, oh, you're older, I can't talk to you. Oh, you're Republican, I can't talk.
Everything you said is wrong.
Everything you said is wrong. Whereas in the Christian era, it was, oh, I saw you helping out children.
Mm-hmm.
This means you're a good person. I can trust what you say.
Right.
And then, like, you could always tell if someone was honest. One thing I've always looked for is if I ask you a question and the answer makes you look bad, then I say, okay, that's how we know this person's honest.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that's
Oh yeah. Well, let me tell you what wrong thing I did.
right. Like a liar will never admit
Yeah.
to the thing that's
Makes them look bad.
right or not in
Yeah.
their best interest. But an honest person is going to tell you the truth.
Yeah.
So if the truth, like if you made well, like today, I did it again with my cell phone. I grabbed my Bible and cell phone, had it in my hand, and I'm looking for the cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't make me look good, but I do it, time to time.
Mm-hmm.
One time I had my worker when I was burnt out, and I was in the truck and I was looking for my cell phone. I had it in my hand, and I said, Justin, I says, did you move the cell phone that I put there while it was in my hand?
Yeah.
That don't make you look good.
Right.
But in the past, nowadays you would say, so and so caught those darn cell phones. They make them so that you don't even know that they're in your hand, or something stupid like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but if you actually can say, hey, I made this mistake.
Right.
Remember the mistakes. And if you think of the mistake, you sometimes you can't change it. But regardless of which, life was so much easier when we valued people based on their goodness, based on their honesty and their character, rather than, well, what are these strangers going to think? Is this person going to think I'm weird? If I hang out with this person, is that person going to not like me? is this going to cost me a job? You know, I don't know if, you know, what are my parents going to think? What are my friends going to think? What are these people going to think? What are the strangers going to think? What are people going to think of the store? Like before people started thinking, like if you look at animals, they don't do that. You know,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
they enjoy playing with each other more because I don't think the old lion is saying, what is this lion going to think if he sees me, you know, kill this buffalo?
Mm-hmm.
You know, should we, you know, I don't know, I was trying to think of a funny joke, but I couldn't finish it. But needless to say, hateful speech leads to social isolation. There's nothing good from it, and you can't justify it even when you're right, because when you're right, you're still sinning, and half the time your sin's worse than the thing you're condemning, even when you're right. Okay. Next question. Why is it so important to reprove darkness?
I mean, if you're like in the Christian setting, you're with other Christians, the darkness hinders your relationship with each other and their relationship with God. So you want to help them improve. You're not attacking them, but you want to be closer with them, and you want them to be closer with God. So you have to address the sin.
All of us people, like whether we want to admit it or not, Jesus equates us to what type of animal? So we had the tree analogy last time. Let's go with the animal analogy. There's a certain animal. It's not necessarily the smartest animal in the world. Rhymes with bleep.
Sheep.
Very good.
That was really hard.
Yes, yeah, boy. You could take a sheep and then you could just guide them to go all jump off the cliff. You could take a sheep. I mean, any dumb thing you want to do with a sheep will follow you towards it. That's how they get this reputation, right? Well, believe it or not, from an eternal standpoint, we're just as dumb as a sheep. Okay, we are all susceptible to just following self-destructive behavior. That's why Jesus is the good shepherd. That's how we get the analogy, because he's not like that. He doesn't have the problems that we do. Okay, I can tell you that, you know, if Eve, you know, looked like Alika Schmidt, I'd be eating the fruit too. You know what I'm saying? You know, like we every little selfish thing that we do, that we have, can get manifested to us, you know, becoming greedy, becoming destructive, becoming immodest. These things are part of our nature, and there's like say for instance, you're perfectly modest. That means you didn't have the temptation that, say, Megan Fox had, right? Say that you are perfectly pure. That means you weren't beaten in the head and have the only social contact was with people that do drugs. Like this things that cause people to commit sins. Okay.
Yeah. And the sin, like, I mean, for good people anyway, well, really everyone, it doesn't usually just, oh, all of a sudden I want to be an evil person. It comes in slow. You do something a little bit, so when you have people there that have godly values, it can improve you. It doesn't get to the point.
Yeah, so by God
That it
reproving
can.
sin and having people that reprove sin brings an awareness of the self-destructive nature of a path that we all desperately need to stay on the narrow path. So in the 90s, people strongly condemned reproving sin, and now we have this mess of this constant hatred that's, I don't know if it affects everybody this way, but I almost think that where the political environment's gotten so bad, I don't even find as much happiness in the world as just a year or two ago. Like
Yeah.
you know, like you there's so much bitterness with people.
Yeah. Signs and bumper stickers, hating everybody.
Yeah, so So the darkness needs to be reproved. Now, reproving darkness doesn't mean attacking darkness. Okay? This is where it gets complicated, right?
Right.
So, for instance, I believe that being a workaholic is bad for your soul, it's bad for society. Now, I don't necessarily think that it benefits for me to break down each individual person that I know and condemn them for being a workaholic.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like I think when you reprove works of darkness, I think it's best if you're doing what I'm doing right now, teaching a Bible study, to reprove it in a social way.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you have the liberty to be friends with people, hopefully you can reprove it one-on-one.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
but it shouldn't be, like, I almost think our society is doing this in the opposite way now, is that we are publicly reproving specific people that we feel is against our group.
Mm-hmm.
And then because we had all these years of saying not to judge, we never dare talk to anybody that's close to us.
Mm-hmm.
So this causes the people that are close to you to never have anybody to be accountable to, and then it causes people to condemn everybody that's different than them. And so, just like I said with emotions a couple weeks ago or backwards, like, you should have the innocence of a child with your virtue, and your intellect should be mature as an adult. And I think insecurity is causing people's emotions to become hardened and mature and to lose that childlike acceptance of people. But then they're immature on their intellect, where they don't dare connect with people, they don't dare being intimate with people, they don't dare having families. And so they're immature intellectually and very mature emotionally. And I think, like, when you reprove sin, you need to socially reprove social mores, and then individually reprove sin to people on a one-on-one basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're, as a society, we're doing this backwards.
Mm.
I already answered the next question, which is, I've almost answered it. Okay, what is the most effective way to reprove darkness with words? I think the last thing that I said kind of depicts this. Okay, so the last question for verse 11 is, why is it so important to be educated on the commandments?
The commandments are what's going to give you, a discernment platform to determine what is darkness. Like, you need to have some standard of what's right and wrong, and it needs to be consistent and universal. Applies to everybody equally. So this is what's right, this is what's wrong, and you get that from the commandments. It's not, like people try to say, it's socially relevant, relevant morality. If you have a consistent, uniform standard of morality, then you can determine what darkness is.
Yeah, the commandments are the essence of light. The commandments are what teaches us how we're supposed to behave towards each other. The commandments are what gives us the understanding of humility, the understanding of transformation, the understanding of how to behave. Things like the Good Samaritan teaches us how to be saved, and so on, and how to behave with each other. The golden rule is literally the key rule to live by. And so basically we need an understanding of the commandments in order to reprove darkness. We need an understanding of the commandments in order to effectively separate ourselves from the world. We need the commandments in order to have wisdom. You do not need an understanding of the commandments to have intellect or intelligence, but the part of intelligence that's associated with wisdom, you do need an understanding of the commandments to have true wisdom. And it's the most critical part of the faith. And I think nowadays most people, when they look at something religious, they're looking at how the religion might condemn the world or help them solve a problem. but they're not actually trying to get educated on the deeper meaning of the commandments, which I think has been lost in our time and in our modern age. We left off on verse 12, so we're going to read verses 12 and 13. It says, "For it is a shame even to speak of those things which are done of them in secret. But all things that are reproved are made manifest by the light. For whatsoever doeth make manifest is light." So Jesus' lights and words and truth are manifest all things in the fullness of time. The effect of sin, greed, and can't read the other word, is so basically, okay, for the shame. So the effects of the sin and the greed and all such things, they're not eternal. They do not last forever. They have the fruits of anxiety, the fruits of darkness, and the fruits of death. If you turn back to Matthew chapter 10. Read verse 26. It says, "Fear them not therefore, for there is nothing covered that shall not be revealed, and hid that shall not be known." Okay, so in verse 13 it says, "All things are reproved, are made manifest by the light." So everything will be revealed in the fullness of time. Okay, now let's look at verse 14. It says, "Wherefore he saith, Awakest that thou sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give you light." Okay, so wherefore he saith, Awake that thou sleepest, and arise. So the commandments themselves bring you light. The commandments give you life. The commandments makes your health better, makes your mind better, makes your awareness better. And basically, self-absorption, self-justifications, and fears actually kill life. They actually cause you to not believe in goodness, to not overcome your anxiety, to not believe in a better tomorrow. And then that's what destroys life. So I think one nice thing about this apostasy is that we can see that Jesus really is the light, that the Spirit is what quickens, the Spirit is what makes people happy, the Spirit is what makes you feel more alive, the Spirit is what creates joy. And you can see that from the differences between the church age and the post-church age. Okay, now the last verse of the day is verse 15. It says, "See them that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise." So circumspectly means accurately or diligent. What does it mean to walk circumspectly? I mean, it's a commandment here.
Like you have your priorities set on God. That's your focus. That's where you put your energy, your action, your words into. Like, obviously, we all have carnal lives too. We have to eat and live somewhere, but that is your focus and what you put your energy into, your mental energy.
Yeah, and when it says to be accurate, that means that your behavior needs to be consistent with
Okay.
truth, sincerity, and goodness.
Mm-hmm.
So if you walk, so basically, if you walk if you're not circumspectly, that means that your behavior has contradictions, your values have contradictions, your actions have contradictions, and they're not necessarily right. They're not necessarily sincere. They're not necessarily true. So circumspectly means that there's a consistent truth to your words, actions, and beliefs.
Okay.
So how do you become diligent about your faith?
You said it is your priority. If you really believe it, it'll be a lot easier. But your faith becomes the most important thing to you. There's a lot of distractions, but in the world, but yeah, you just have to make it your number one priority.
So diligence is a part of being circumspect. So in essence, if you're diligent about anything, what does it mean?
You're hardworking towards it, and you're focused on it, and you value it highly.
Right. So if you're diligent on your faith, and it's what you said is correct, is that you make it a priority. You make it a part of your life. You actively pray. You actively read God's word. You actively try to learn the commandments on a deeper level. You talk about them. You live them. You practice them. You meditate upon them. Okay. So then the next question is, how do you become diligent on expressing love?
You express your love and the positive feelings that you get towards people, but you are also focused on the good in people more. You're looking for things to love about people, and I don't know, it's not really normal to be that loving now, so you have to go against the grain.
Yeah, so you're diligent on expressing love. You're looking for things you're looking for what love is. You're looking for examples of love. You're looking of ways to promote love. So like if someone has a little bit of love, you try to validate that love. You share the love with them, and then you look for ways that you can tie your love into things that you say. So you try to make your words enhance love. Try to make your actions enhance love. Try to make your thoughts of love, and that's how you're diligent with love. Whereas I think now, like a lot of parents justified their kids and thought that was love. So now people think self-justification is love. So now people are diligent on justifying themselves what they think is love, but it actually, sadly, isn't love. Okay, how do you diligently pray? What's another word for a biblical term for diligent prayer?
Pray without ceasing.
Correct. So what does pray without ceasing mean?
Pray without stopping.
Yeah, that means that you make prayer a part of your life.
Yeah, you talk to God regularly throughout your day. It might not be that you are sitting there all day praying, but He's kind of there with you all day when you need something, or are grateful for something. You just talk to God.
And personally, I pray every night when I go to bed before I sleep. I'll have like a whole big dialogue with God in prayer. And the other thing, anything you're diligent for, you look for a reason to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, and you value it enough to be consistent with it.
Okay, so the two key definitions of circumspect is diligence and accuracy. So we just covered diligence, okay? So the next question is, why is it so important to be accurate in what you believe? You know, political activists don't really believe this.
Because it doesn't really have that much value if it's not grounded in truth. If it's just an opinion. I mean, yeah, it just has no value, I guess.
Yeah, if what you're saying is not accurate, you don't have credibility, it doesn't actually work, and it's not going to last.
Yeah, I guess that's the biggest thing is it doesn't work.
Right. Okay, the spirit of blank makes so much. So how does sincerity and truth, which I think is a form of accuracy, perfect our fellowship? Or perfect fellowship in general?
I mean, it makes us able to be closer if everyone is being sincere and who they are. You don't have to worry about people lying to you or being fake or putting up a front if you're talking to the real person that's there.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're sincere, then it makes your feelings general. Like if someone just gives you compliments every time they open their mouth to make themselves look good, then if they say something, if you actually did something that's important to you,
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. Their praise doesn't really matter.
right? And then also too is if we need to have some people in our lives that we're accountable to keep us from self-destructing. So that's why, you know, it needs to be true what we're saying, is so that we can have more accountability. Then also, if someone loves us, just having truth and sincerity makes you feel that love more. Like genuineness works.
Yeah.
Which leads to the next question, is how does truth enhance feelings?
I mean, if you know the feelings are true, you can glean the joy from them and reciprocate them liberally. But then also, like on the other point of it, if the people you're with are honest, you can trust them and feel comfortable around them.
Yeah, if you know that it's true, then it means more, you feel it more, and it once again makes it more real. The more real the feelings are, the more they affect you. Okay, why do you need accuracy to have true faith?
I think because we have a conscience, we can kind of feel and know if something's true or not. So if you're having faith in something that isn't true, you get a feeling of doubt in it, and that takes away from the faith.
Yeah, well, you know, it's nice when your prayers are answered. So if you're praying to a God that's not real, then he doesn't have the power to answer your prayer. I mean, that's the most obvious part, right? But also, you know, you need, if you're praying to a God, God is beyond you, so you need to have you need to have some faith in what's true in order, or you need to have accuracy in your faith to get to the thing that's bigger than you, to get to the thing that has more truth than you, to get beyond self. You need to have faith. So your faith needs to be accurate to get beyond self. If your faith is not accurate, it becomes limited to either yourself or some other person's self. But to have it open-ended and beyond what we know, it needs to be accurate. And then the last question of the day is, why do you need to be accurate in what you believe in order to have peace of mind?
If it goes back into a little bit of what I was saying in the last one, you get a little bit of doubt and anxiety when you believe something that isn't true. So, in order to have peace, it has to be true.
So if something isn't accurate, that means that there's always something that contradicts it.
Yeah, and it might, depending on what it is, it could be vary in scale of severity, but there will be some negative outcome too that causes anxiety.
Yeah, like the Mormons, for instance, they believe Joseph Smith had these tablets. They didn't realize that the New Covenant, the law is written in your hearts. There was never a reason to have a tablet. They believed that having 36 wives was a virtuous thing back then. So they know that it's not a virtuous thing now, so therefore, even though those things are important, even though they got good families, even though they're good people, even though they help people, like these beliefs create a degree of anxiety. This isn't true, so then you're not going to believe that God's really answering your prayer. Like if you believe there was this big Christian organization in America that failed, that didn't exist, and we're now so much better than all they were. Meanwhile, society's falling apart. They say they reformed the church and the world isn't really reformed,
Yeah.
And that's just one example.
Yeah.
There's hundreds of examples, but regardless of which, but that's an example of people that are good, people that live their life for the truth, but yet it's inaccurate. So it being inaccurate can destroy you even if you're in a good environment. It can destroy you from a spiritual perspective. And okay, so we will close here. Dear God, I pray that everyone here learns to reprove the darkness, be consistent and diligent in their faith, and learn to focus on sincerity, truth, consistency, and be accurate, filled with wisdom. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Amen.